We're going to talk about what's called the era of the no-show fees is here, and it's going to cost you. Joining us is Jan Goss, an etiquette and professional development expert. Jan, welcome to Nightside.
Hello, Dan. This is the Dan and Jan show right now, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. There were some singers back in the day, Dan and Jean. Was it Dan and Jan? No, yeah, I think it's something like that.
I don't know, but I can sing.
There was
Can you?
Jan and Dean, yeah. So close, but we're not going to sing. We're going to talk. So,
all right.
First of all, you're an etiquette and professional development expert. Explain to us what that means. I think I know what it means, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Sure. Well, what we do is we help people be their very best self on a daily basis by showing up in life. Dan, you have to show up. And not just show up, but show up well. Let's go that extra mile. Let's put that extra 2% in there and not just show up, but show up well. And that's what we help people do.
Well, we're talking about showing up. We're talking about
yes, we are. I am the perfect person to be here.
So what is that story? The era of the no-show fees is here. Give it to us straight. We can handle it.
Okay, because I do want to set the record straight. A no-show does cost. It costs the service sector in our country. And when you look at the driver of the U.S. economy is the service sector. It accounts for 70 to 80% of the GDP in our whole country. Okay. So when we don't show up, it costs that small business owner. What you're paying for with these, it seems like slapping you on the hand, and reprimanding you for not showing up. Well, you need to be reprimanded if you say you're going to do something and don't say it, and it costs someone else money. Then you play a part in that.
Well, these folks are
selling.
They're selling a service, and they are setting aside a certain amount of time for your service.
Exactly.
And when you don't show up and there's no service rendered, primarily they lose that amount of time from their workday. So who is this going to affect most? I mean, I'm assuming barbers and spas. Tell us where
those in the service sector. Yes, I think so. It's those who are offering services, and this is a tender spot in my heart. I am a huge small business America. I think we are the backbone of America is the service sector. And I think this points, though, Dan, to an even bigger etiquette issue, and that is not keeping your word. Yeah. Be a person of your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. It's really that simple. And of course there are exceptions to the rules. There will always be the exception, but be sure that you're a person that if you do say something out of your mouth, if you say you're going to be there at 2:00, well, if you ask my dad, then you would have to be there at 1:45. You couldn't be there at 2 or you would be late.
I agree with you.
Those were days gone by.
I have a dear friend of mine who used to be a professional baseball player for the Boston Red Sox. And whenever we were meeting somewhere, if I showed up to meet him for lunch at noontime, he'd look at me and dead serious, "You're late." And I'd say, "Ted, what do you mean I'm late? It's 2 minutes to noon." He says, "You're late." And he always say, "You're never penalized for being early." He must have missed a team bus or a team plane at one point. But,
right.
Yeah,
he must have been reprimanded at some point in time.
So I'm going to posit a theory by you, okay? And this is my theory. COVID gave all of us a real easy excuse that if we put down we were going to go and get a haircut or go to a salon, go to a barbershop or whatever, and somehow we forgot about it and we looked at our watch and said, "Oh, my God." You would call up and say, "I'd love to come over, but I feel that maybe I got some COVID coming on. I've been coughing a little bit more." And people would say, "Oh, please stay home."
Yes.
Now, COVID is not as prevalent as it was a couple of years ago, so that excuse is kind of going away. Is that a factor here?
I think COVID probably shined a light on that, but I think the deterioration of personal ethics and responsibility and value systems, which opens a whole rabbit hole about what's taught in our homes and in the school systems. People are not being taught. They're not being taught to be a person of their word. They're not being taught, not in the homes, not in the school systems. And, you know, we grow up and hire them and complain about the kind of employees we have. We have a bigger problem than just making an excuse for not showing up. It's a deeper personal integrity issue.
Well, I'm with you on that totally, but I would love to know the percentage of, and I'm sure these statistics were not kept, and if they were kept, they probably were difficult to interpret, that if we went back, let us say, to 2010, 2012, 2015, and said, okay, what was the no-show rate up until late 2019 and early 2020 when COVID really hit, I would suspect that those no-show rates probably stayed around the same, but then COVID hit and they probably...
I think you're onto something, Dan.
Yeah, no, I'm
you're
serious.
Probably onto something. I think we all got a little lazy during COVID.
Well, you know what I've done,
did.
And I'll admit to you, and since you're an etiquette expert, I want to find out if you feel I broke the rules of etiquette. And this is a serious question, okay? Have you ever been, I don't know, in line in a store, and all of a sudden the person behind you, for some reason, just kind of invades your personal space? Just, and you move a little bit, and that person kind of moves right. I don't know, maybe they think that they'll get through the line. You've known that. So what I have done in the past is, in that situation, if I'm feeling uncomfortable with someone just, within my personal space, that little area, a couple of feet that we keep around us. That's, if we're riding on the subway system, you'd have no personal space. I get that. You're hanging onto a strap. I get that. Okay.
Of course.
So what I learned to do during COVID, and I've stopped doing it because the COVID, but after COVID had kind of subsided, 2023, if someone was in my personal space, I would turn to them and say, I kind of feel a little lousy, and I suspect I might be coming down with COVID, so I'm not sure you want to stay this close to me. And people would immediately back off. So now I lied, okay, because I wasn't coming down with COVID, but I felt it was necessary because I didn't want to say to the person, hey, do me a favor, will you? Give me a little room here. We're just in line here to whatever. Did I breach etiquette doing that? Because I did it several times.
Okay. I have a feeling you're trying to get a free etiquette consultation out of this thing, Dan.
I always try to get things free. Only kidding. No, I'm just using that as an example, particularly
and
as
I
it
think
relates
that's a great example.
Yeah.
Sure. So, in answer to your question,
and
do you have to lie to do it? No.
If that's a bad thing that I did, you can hit me with it. I can take it.
Well,
I'm a man.
The lying piece was bad. Yes, Stan, that was bad. But here's the thing: we weren't taught how to communicate clearly and express our needs in a kind way, and so we get in those situations, and they're really awkward. That's why it's important to do training behind the scenes so that you have some verbiage around those kind of situations.
So what would have you said if you found yourself in that situation as I described it? You would not have been as, I guess, probably as rude as me to lie and mislead about my physical condition. What else could have I done that might have been preferable to achieve the same result?
You would use I statements. You would tell how that you would talk about your own feeling. I feel a little bit cramped here. Would it be possible for you to step back just a little bit?
That's good. That's good. I
Something like that, where it's a little bit, where you're kind, but you're saying how I feel.
Well, see, that's why you're the etiquette expert, and I'm not. You just showed your expertise, and I mean that with all seriousness. I mean, I wish I had thought of that, but that was not the first impulse that came to mind. Jen, I enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to have you back at some point. And
it would be my pleasure.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the conversation, and guess what? I threw a situation at you which was real life, and you showed me what should have been done. Very good. Very good.
Well, I'm a people lover, Dan, and I always love to connect. I would love to connect more with you, with any of the listeners, if I can be of help in advance. Ask me in advance, so when you're in the situation, you're not caught off guard.
Okay, so
I would
how
love
can
to
folks
connect.
get what? You must have a website. I assume everybody has a website.
I do.
What's the website?
And it's very easy. It's showupwell.com.
Excellent.
Connect with me there. I answer every correspondence myself. I will connect with you. I want to complete my mission in life, which is to lift people up. So if I can lift you up and make your life better, it is my pleasure. Connect with me at showupwell.com.
That's so great. Jan, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. Have a great weekend.
All right. Here's to the Jan and Dan Show.
The Jan and Dan Show. You got it. I like that. Okay. Talk soon.